As a SOC analyst, one of the most popular query languages that you'll come across is KQL, aka Kusto Query Language. And if you have experience using this, you'll be able to immediately contribute in environments that use it quite heavily. Which is why in today's video, we are going to be tackling a KC7 case together called JoJo's Hospital. But before we get started, I do have a free community for aspiring SOC analysts called the MyD4SOC community. So if you want to be surrounded with like-minded individuals working towards the same goal, I would highly recommend checking it out. Link will be in the description down below. Alright, to get started, you want to head over to kc7cyber.com and create an account if you haven't done so already. Once you log in, you want to head over to Security Analyst 1 right here. And then what we want to select here is the JoJo's Hospital, a ransomware investigation. Taking a look here, it says JoJo's Hospital, a cornerstone of Lexington's healthcare system, faces a critical crisis. The stakes are immense. Will the hospital recover its vital services and secure patient data, or succumb to the paralyzing ransomware attack? In this module, you'll assist JoJo's Hospital in investigating the attack and restoring its operations. Every decision, every piece of evidence, and every strategic move could determine the hospital's fate. That said, let's get started. I'll select Start Game, and let's click on Join the Game. Let's take a look. We have a YouTube video, and it says, how many hours did the hackers give the hospital to pay the ransom? How long is this video? Oh, about a minute. Okay. So looking at the video, it mentions within the next 72 hours. And that is going to be our answer to question number 1. Now, speaking about ransomware, there was actually a recent ransomware attack on one of our clients inside the MyD4 Forge. So if you want to investigate and try your hands on another end-to-end ransomware, then the MyD4 Forge could be something of interest. With that said, let's go ahead and click on Submit. And moving on to question number 2. What was the name of the ransomware group? Well, that is going to be this right here, a Lockbite, which is a spin on the Lockbit ransomware group. This right here, Lockbit. The slogan was, we spend your money so you don't have to. That's a great slogan, by the way. So you don't have to. Not only did the hackers ask the hospital for money, but they also sent scary emails to patients. How much did the hackers ask the patients to pay? That is $10,000. What very important unique identifier number did the ransomware operators threaten to release? Oh, social security number. That is definitely our very unique identifier. So I'll type in social security number. All right, it looks like we get into KQL now. We can confirm that the hackers encrypted files on the machines of many employees. This means those employees can no longer access their important files. This is very bad. How many total files were encrypted at the hospital? All right, well, we can use the file creation events table, and we'll do where file name ends with .encrypted. Exactly what KC7 is providing us here. When we run that, looking at the available records, we have 6,420. Now, what we could also do is just do a count, and here we go, 6,420. So either or would have gotten you the answer. Question 7, how many unique host names had the files encrypted on them? If we go into the about data, and we want to look into file creation events, we do have a column name called host name. So we'll do distinct host name. And looking at the available records, we have 321. So that is our answer. What was the SHA-256 hash of this ransom file? And they want us to look specifically for this right here. We'll type in where file name equals we have your data payup.txt. Oops, I need to capitalize this. Okay. And looking at the column of SHA-256, this right here is our SHA hash. What was the full path of this ransom file? We can find that answer right here under the path column. And it is located under Ann Davis's user profile, specifically in the documents. How many hosts or machines was this ransom file seen? Okay, we'll do another distinct and type in hostname. And we only have one, which is AMFB-machine, which is actually our answer to question number 11, AMFB-machine. Now, just in case, I am going to enter in a comment and say AMFB-machine. Let's just say it was observed. Question number 12. What is the name of the employee whose host has the ransom note? Okay, if we go into the about data, click into the data tables and look into the employees table, we have the name, IP address. Do we have computer name? Oh, we have host name. So what we can do is employees where host name equals, and then we can type in AMFB-machine. And that is incorrect. We get no results. Let's take a look again. We do have the host name. Yes, that is correct. Okay, what if I just do a take 10? Oh, it's going to look for case sensitivity. The reason why I assume that is because take a look. They're all case sensitive. If I were to say machine like that, there you go. Cool. Now, what happens if I wanted to ignore case sensitivity? How would I do that? Well, we can actually introduce this little squiggly line and then we can run the query and there you go. And if we look at the username, this is Ann Davis with the first and last name of Anthony Davis. Let's put that into our notes. The name is Anthony Davis. Whoops, there you go. And the IP address is 10.10.0.1. The username is Ann Davis. And the role is a senior IT administrator. Let me just put these in here, username. So the answer to question number 12 is going to be Anthony Davis. Next, we have how many process events were executed on Anthony's machine during this time period. Okay, for this one, I'm actually going to copy it because it's looking between a specific time frame. And before I hit enter, I'll quickly break down what this query is doing. So in the beginning, it's looking at the process events table, filtering where the host name is Anthony Davis's machine, right here. And we're looking at the timestamp between the date time, which is 2024-06-17 to 2024-06-18. So about a day. And we want to see all of the events between these two dates. To go ahead and hold Shift and Enter, and this is going to run the query. Now we have 14 records. So that is our answer. Next is, what was the name of the ransomware file mentioned? Okay, one of the command mentions a ransomware. Gotcha. So what I'll do is say where process command line contains, and we'll do ransomware, and we have one event. What was the name of the file mentioned? The name is going to be in our command line. Taking a look, we have a CMD. It is copying a file called lockbit_ransomware.exe and transferring it via network because we see 2 backslashes here. This is essentially a network share, and they're moving the file over to the shared directory and renaming it called spread_ransomware.exe. So our name of the ransomware file is called lockbit_ransomware.exe. Or sorry, not lockbit, lockbyte_ransomware.exe. All right, question number 15. When the attackers copied the ransomware file to the network share, what new name did they give it? They gave it spread_ransomware.exe. What tool did the attacker use to steal the data? This will be an exe file. If we keep looking down in the data, we can see that hackers actually stole some data from the hospital as well. Okay, let's go ahead and comment out our process command line, and let's take a look. Actually, before I do anything, I want to make sure that our time is sorted accordingly. I am going to sort it in ascending order. This is going to show us the earliest event at the top and the latest event at the bottom. And if we were to just focus on the process command line, we should be able to identify some interesting events. And you know what? It is getting a little bit messy. Let's do distinct process command line. Perfect. We are looking for some kind of exfiltration. Take a look at this. Patient underscore data underscore exporter.exe. That definitely does not sound legitimate. It's doing an export flag towards our patient data, or actually it is creating a patient underscore data underscore 1.zip file where it is grabbing all of the files from our patient records under the JoJo-hospital-server network share. And we know that it is grabbing all of this because of the /source flag. The tool that was used is called patient underscore data underscore exporter or exporter.exe. What information did the attackers put into the patient data 1.zip? Provide the full path of the network share. Okay, I'm just going to double click it and copy it rather than typing it all out. What information did the attackers put into patient data 2? That's a good question. That is this. It's under, again, patient records, but it's under the archive directory now. This is likely our backup. And we get into number 3, patient data 3. That is old patient data. Regardless, this is definitely not a good day. Any kind of patient records leaving the company is not a fun day. Well, it is pretty fun if you're an incident responder, but if you're the company, yeah, terrible day. What domain did the attacker send the stolen data to? Well, if we look at the next event, we see a cmd.exe invoking the curl command, pointing to our patient data 1.zip towards this domain called secure-health-access.com. And that right there is going to be our answer. What command did they use to clear their tracks? So they were doing some kind of anti-forensics here, and that is the last command, where they're deleting all of the patient data.zip files that they created. But wait a minute, patient data exporter.exe is not a file that is supposed to be used at the hospital. Where did it come from? Perhaps it was downloaded. Okay, let's go into our outbound network events, exactly what KC7 is instructing us to do. And we'll say where URL has patient underscore data underscore exporter.exe. And we see the source IP, which is 10.10.0.1. And good thing we made some notes. This is sourcing from Anthony Davis's machine. And they went and grabbed or downloaded the patient data exporter.exe. This occurred on June 17th at 2:22:29 p.m. The answer to this question is going to be our securehealthaccess.com. Copy that. Question number 23. When was the patient data exporter file downloaded? That is this right here. How many distinct IPs does the domain securehealthaccess.com resolve to? Well, we know to use the passive DNS where domain equals, and we want to know how many distinct IP addresses. So we'll type in distinct IP, and we have 2. Which one of these IPs ends with a digit 1? That is our first one here. Which one of these IPs end with the digit 2? That is the next one. What additional domain is associated with these IP addresses? Okay, what I'll do is create a filter called where IP is in, and we'll surround it with a parenthesis, put it into quotes, 203.0.113.1, do a comma, and then put in our next IP address, just like so, and do a distinct domain. And we have a total of 2 domains. Now the question is asking what additional domain name is associated. We know that the securehealthaccess.com was responsible for the patient data exporter, but we never really paid much attention to this EMR-help. What exactly is this? Question number 28, it says, nice, now we have 2 IP addresses and 2 domain names owned by the hackers. Sometimes hackers will go to our website and do research on the things that they are interested in stealing, and we call this Reconnaissance. Let's take the actors' IPs we found and look for any reconnaissance they conducted against the hospital website. It looks like we're going to be taking a look into the inbound network events. Inbound network events, and I'm going to just copy this query here. And instead of saying IP, because inbound network events does not have a field name called IP, instead it uses source_IP. And we'll go ahead and run that query, and we have 37 records. So that is our answer to question number 28. The hackers were curious about how to bypass blank at JoJo Hospital. Okay, where URL contains, and we'll do bypass. Let's see what the hackers were trying to bypass here. Well, that's quite easy, right? Bypass security. And that is what they were trying to, well, bypass. What was the first web request the hackers made using the term patient? Okay, let's replace the word bypass with patient. And the first request that they made, let me sort it by ascending order. The first request was at 12 a.m. And this was hospital patient records. And the question wants us to paste the full URL. Question number 31. Since we already have two IPs owned by the hackers, we can also check to see if they logged into anybody's account. This is called a scoping exercise, by the way, and I always encourage the members inside the MyD4SOC community and the MyD4Forge to always do. So let's go over to our authentication events, and I'll copy the query again, and let's just run it. And we do have one record. So they definitely logged into our account of Ann Davis. Yeah, this occurred on May 20th, 2024 at 12 a.m. So let me copy this date and time. Which IP address did the actors use for the login? That is the one ending in .1. Whose account did the hackers log into? Oh, provide a first and last name. So we know that this is from Ann Davis. And again, good thing that we took notes. We can simply copy this and paste it in. And finally, we get into question number 34, which is the last question of section 1. And all we need to do here is type in yikes to finish the section. That is part 1 of today's lab. And if you are following along, please feel free to continue on and try to complete the entire lab by yourself. If you ever get stuck, feel free to join either KC7's Discord or our free SOC community and then ask your questions there. Or you can wait for the next part of the series. That is it for the video, and I hope that you found that informative. If you did, let me know by hitting that like button and subscribe if you want to. Remember to stay curious and do things differently.